Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CS Cyber. I'm Chad.
I am Sean.
And today we're continuing our Aqua Guardian series. And today we're going to really go into like the acronyms and some of the terminology associated with water and wastewater.
Yeah, if there's anything any of these industries have plenty of, it's acronyms.
Yeah, and I think last week we were talking about kind of the convergence of IT and OT, right? And how some IT people, they just never have been exposed to operational technology, right? So it's kind of foreign to them. They don't know the acronyms. The OT guys don't know the IT acronyms. So just wanted to kind of dive in today and kind of talk about this. So
okay, well, we can just start with IT versus OT. That's probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
So IT, information technology, is probably the most popular term that people are familiar with, and that's things like your servers, your billing systems, emails, office computers. If you work for a municipal utility, maybe it's the city computer that's sitting on your desk, right? Your phone. Those are IT systems,
right? I think people get confused, right? I mean, those are IT systems. Not every single thing that plugs in is IT.
That's correct. So then we go into operational technology, and those are your plant processes, your valves, your sensors, everything, to the north of IT or to the south, depending on how you look at it. So, and then inside the OT piece are the other acronyms, right? So that's where we find SCADA.
All right.
Supervisory control and data acquisition. So it's literally the brains of the plant, right? PLCs, programmable logic controllers. Those are like the hands turning pumps and valves on and off, and in the water system, we're adding chemicals potentially to the water to help it through that process. And then the king of all kings, the HMI, the human machine interface. So that's the screen that you use to interact with the system, turn things on and off, monitor like water tower height, those types of things.
Probably the things that most people think of when they think of a SCADA system or screen, right? It's the pumps, it's the levels, it's the water towers, it's all of those things.
Yeah, that's probably the most popular thing. They're seeing the HMI and saying, "Oh, that's SCADA." Yeah, I mean the back end of that is the SCADA piece, right? But you're actually looking at an HMI screen. So, all right. So those are some of the most popular ones and the things that we throw around the most. So why does it matter? So from an IT versus OT perspective, it matters because OT was never designed with cybersecurity in mind.
So they were purpose-built to do a thing.
That's correct.
Take a action.
Yes, that's correct. So a lot of what we find inside these water wastewater systems too is we find a lot of old operating systems, Windows versions, no passwords, weak passwords, just some very, very, very poor hygiene.
Right. And I think really because those systems were almost kind of set it and forget it, right? A lot of things I run into, it's if it's not broke, we're not going to try to fix it. So we're only going to patch if there's a problem. We're only going to update our servers if there's a problem. Yeah. It's worked for the last 6 years, the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're good.
No, that's exactly right. Remote access, wasn't even back in the day, we really didn't need remote access as bad because there were plenty of contractors and folks that could just drive to these plants and do the work, right?
Right.
But over time, we've lost a lot of that knowledge in the industry, and a lot of water systems are turning to unsafe remote access. So things like TeamViewer and AnyDesk and those types of technologies, and there's no MFA, so it's opening up a huge risk to these water systems and wastewater systems as we get these contractors logged in.
Yeah, you had made a comment the other day that, do you think we're seeing kind of a generational thing with water and wastewater where people used to have that skill set? There was people out there that could drive to plants, and I think you made the comment the other day that a younger generation maybe doesn't see that as a viable career option for them, right? So they're relying on contractors that have those skills that are spread out over a geographical area.
Yeah, you can almost equivalent it to the coal mining industry. So in the coal mining sector, and there's several movies out there that document this. It's very generational. So in coal mining, it's very common for children to grow up in the coal mining industry and then go into coal mining because dad was a coal miner or grandpa was a coal miner. We see a little bit of that in the water wastewater sector, but I think, no pun intended, I think we've drained that pond. So I really think the generational thing isn't really a thing anymore. And now there's a huge struggle in the water wastewater sector, in critical infrastructure, period, to really attract that newer generation, that younger generation, and get them interested in a career path.
Yeah.
So that's a real big problem, and that is adding to it's making this problem worse, because then we're having even heavier reliance on remote access.
Yeah.
And if it's not secure or it's insecure, then we're at the risk level keeps increasing over time.
Yeah. All right. So the takeaway here, right? So we talked about how old some of this technology is, right? So in the generational kind of gap. So even if you don't touch the technology every day, understand like how it works, how it's connected, how it interoperates. Like that's something that both the operational like plant people need to understand, and IT has a role in as well.
Yeah. Even if you just sketch like a basic diagram of how this works, and if you can't get there, you need to call someone. Because, we've referenced the CIS controls many times on our podcast, the Center for Internet Security, the top 18 controls. Control 1 and Control 2 are the first two controls, the most important ones, and they're the most non-glamorous ones. And it's know your hardware and know your software. Right. If you don't know what's in your plant and how it's designed, then you cannot form a defense.
Yeah, I think that is a really good idea and like a really good exercise, right? I mean, just take a minute, grab a piece of printer paper and try to sketch what you think your design is, right? And if you don't know or you can't get there, you probably need to start asking some questions in your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for this episode. Short and sweet, got over some of the acronyms, ITOT. It really starts setting the stage, as we continue on through this. So the next episode, we'll talk about just some of the good habits that you can have from a cyber hygiene perspective. I really hate that word. It makes it, I think of brushing my teeth every time I hear hygiene,
right,
or deodorant. So, but I guess it plays in, but we'll talk about cyber hygiene and how big of a difference that can make for you.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you next time.